The story that I want to give you today was broken by a very good journo, Annabelle Hepworth. And she wrote for The Australian and said that the union led by the ALP Vice President Tony Sheldon is pushing the government for a further crackdown on 457 visas, including a ban on companies that have retrenched workers, sparking new business warnings. The nation's reputation is in danger from dog-whistling politics. I love some of these descriptions. Tony Sheldon, can you, and thanks for joining us, can you give us an idea of the kind of companies and what behaviour you want to target here?
Look, Leon, I think you're right about this sort of accusations of dog whistling and the sorts of companies, however, that do need to be held to account, because the 457 scheme, these bringing in overseas immigrants in it for set periods, is in itself not a bad principle when it works properly. But what happens is that when you're somebody on these particular immigration arrangements, and there's many, many tens of thousands, you don't have the same rights as what you or I or many of your listeners would have. What happens is if you come into the country and the employer dislikes you or doesn't like the way you part your hair, let alone standing up for your rights or having a proper safety arrangements, they can terminate you and you have to be deported within 28 days. So you have no rights. And you know, I've been saying this to a number of places that, you know, whether you have a heritage of 60,000 years or you arrived last week, we should all have the same human right in this country, and that protects all of us. Having the same human right protects each other's human right.
Yeah. Look, can I just, I need to mention a few things. First of all, the coalition say that this whole thing is a beat-up to take attention away from the real issues. I presume they'd mean the economy. But, of course, the government have a report which allegedly suggests that rorting is minimal of the 457 visas. So my question to you, Tony, is obviously you're acting in good faith. You must have information that maybe other people don't have.
Oh, well, I absolutely do. I think the first thing is you'd have to be a pretty brave soul when you come from a third world country to get paid whatever payment you receive in this country, which makes you more competitive to get the job over an Australian, and turn around and say that I'm going to stand up and tell my employer no when he wants me to do something improper, illegal, or something that no other person would be expected in society. The examples, however, and it frustrates me to no ends about this position from the coalition and a few others, vested interests that want to flood the market with 457 visa holders and take jobs away from our kids in the future and parents now. But we've got these examples. Go West. It's a company up in northwest Australia, where we've got examples of 15 different rorting arrangements regarding safety conditions, where people are fixing, supposedly as engineers on buses up there. It's a tour company, where they're standing on the tops of buses without any harnesses, any protection. The living conditions are something you would find in a third world country. And this is the sort of competition that decent companies that are doing the right thing have to do, let alone decent Australian workers who want jobs in these industries.
Yeah, can I ask you this? You represent a very prominent union, Transport Workers. Does your union use 457s?
We have, and this is one of the things too, which the concept of having a 457 visa holder where there's skills that and unsuitable people are not the suitable people for a particular position that can only be found elsewhere, makes good sense. As long as you're training Australians, as long as there's skill transfer, as long as it's not replacing an Australian employee, then it makes good sense to improve the capacity for companies, and that includes unions. But where people are being exploited and don't have rights, and I've got to say this for my employees as well, they know more than anyone what their rights are that work for a union. But they don't have the same right as you and I. If I, for some reason, turned around and terminated them, they'd be out of this country within 28 days, deported, because we had a difference of opinion, whether I'm right or wrong. I don't believe that's morally or ethically appropriate. And I don't think it should apply to anyone should be in that position when they can be stood
All right.
up.
I want to, let me just run a couple of things by you. We've had employers, we have an abattoir here. In fact, we've got a couple. We've got a workplace, let's say in Murray Bridge, where a company there have been advertising for staff and they pay good wages for ages. They can't get willing participants locally, so they've had to bring in 457. So you would presumably have no problem with that?
Look, I don't know the specific example, but,
sure.
but on the general proposition, there is no problem about bringing people in on the basis of that. And I'll give you another good example, and that is Caterpillar. And